Hi, Irina. Alright, so here's your past life spread. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time there, an important day with the relationships and the feelings involved, another important day with the relationships, feelings involved, with the death over here, and the lesson that was learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout, alright? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can, based off what comes through here, okay? And I'll help however I can. So, just keep in mind there are a couple of ways to make connections. There's direct and opposite. Direct would be if you connect with what is directly kind of being said here and what information's coming through, versus when our soul experiences something and then it likes to come back to experience basically the opposite because it's already had that experience and lesson. So you want to look for the opposite connections as well. Alright, and I'll try to help with that too. So, alright, so we're going to begin, and where we're going, the card that was pulled here is the Atlantis and Lemuria card. And the Atlantis and Lemuria card, it can be literal, like from Atlantis, from Lemuria. Or it can also mean other legendary old lost worlds. Or it can also mean like, what's the word? Kind of like a magical realism kind of way of living. And that's what's coming through here. And that's a rare one, or a rare one that comes through. I rarely get that, but this is what it feels like, because it feels like we're looking at someone, like your aspect here feels like someone who escapes into her mind and dwells in her mind space, like daydreaming or imagination land, fantasy land in her head, as a way, what feels like escapism. I can't speak today. As escapism. And that's not bad or anything. It's just showcasing a trait of what we're looking at here. Now, why that might be coming up, for example, we can try a connection with this. So for example, do you daydream a lot? Are you very imaginative? Do you live in your head? Do you spin fantasies? Not in a bad way, but you know, do you live in, do scenes play out in your head? Are you an artist? Are you a writer? Do you create stories? Are you a storyteller? And as I'm saying that, it feels very much like we're looking at someone here who is very gifted at storytelling in this life. Now, an opposite connection would be someone in this life, you. If you are in this life more pragmatic, analytical, you don't daydream a lot, you don't use your imagination too much, you like realism, concrete things, you know what I mean? So you see how there could be a direct connection versus opposite, even with just that. But so we're looking at the theme of how you are with yourself in your mind. How do you use your mind? And also we're looking at a connection, for example, the idea of escapism. So there's something called the disassociation, right? So when we don't want to think about things that are hard or like traumatic or whatever it might be, we dissociate a lot. And it's not even like a big deal because everyone does it. It's just people do it at varying levels and for varying reasons, right? So do you ever catch yourself drifting off? Or do you find that people like call your name a couple times and it takes you a couple times to get out of your head space for you to come back to reality kind of thing? Now, on the other hand, the opposite connection would be if you are always present in the moment, and you're not, you don't dissociate, you don't go in your imagination land, right? So this is coming up for a reason, and we're just going to keep going with it. So it feels like the aspect we're looking at here is a female as well. People change up genders as they move along in their past lives. And what is coming through as far as what this female looks like, and looks don't always come through, but it's coming through for a reason, so connect however you can. But I'm looking at someone who, for lack of better words, looks like what you would consider a babushka, like a rushing nesting doll grandmother, and something about the idea of like dark red hair, and it's something about the red hair, pale skin, kind of the look says something that sets her apart from her, I want to say, like, community or where she's from, I feel like it's not that it's completely abnormal, it's that there's something about her that has a look that reminds everyone of either the old ways or something like a figure of their folk tale. There's something very folk tale-ish about the look of this woman. And maybe that's another reason why the Atlantis Lemire card is coming up, because there's something enchanting, like it's a feeling of like, and people are enchanted by her look and her, not the charisma, but like the energy. It's almost like she's carrying the energy of the ancestors, like, with her. I can't explain it much better than that. So any connection with that doesn't mean that that's what you look like. It just means that if you've ever even had a fondness for, like, maybe red hair, or a fondness for nesting dolls, or the Russian nesting dolls, you know? Those thingies that come in the you know, you open it up and there's a smaller one, you open it up, there's a smaller one, all the way down to a little tiny size. And if not, just Google and see what that is. And then also, if you have a affinity for folk tales, folk legends, then there's something, I mean, it could be, honestly, specifically for some reason, like the babushka thing keeps coming up, and I don't know why, but there's this very, like, overly maternal, solid, grounded energy about this aspect, and that could be coming up for you in case you need that energy. And what I mean by that is sometimes past lives are read like this and things come up because the person being read needs to know that they have access to traits and qualities and behaviors and energies and this and that they might be able to utilize in their current life. So for example, the feeling of this woman is so grounded and solid, and it's almost like timeless kind of thing. Like, she's so confident of who she is, and you know, like, it's that feel, it's stability. There's comfort. So in your current life, either one, you feel like that is your energy and you still carry that with you in this life, and you bring comfort and stability to others around you. And or the opposite would be in your current life, if you are someone who finds that you feel off balance or unstable or not grounded, which would feel like being unsure of yourself or uncertain about your own judgment of situations and people, again, uncertainty, that kind of thing. If you find that that's coming up, or that's how it's been for you, that just, this would be coming up to show you that even though that's how you might be, what you might be going through now, the energy here can be totally tapped into because it's still part of your soul. So all you have to do is basically, it's like a meditation. Whenever you understand or feel out or resonate with these past lives, you just sit and process it and feel what it feels like to feel the energy of the other aspect of you, and allow that kind of feeling just to kind of flood your body and mind. And just know that that means you've tapped into it when you could feel that. You know what I mean? But again, it could just mean that you directly connect and you are confident and grounded and stable and all those good things, right? This can also indicate that you are a storyteller. If you like the art of storytelling, that could be writing or singing, or just even sharing stories. Like, if you're just someone that always has like something to talk about, or relay to others, like, oh, I heard that, blah, or oh, I saw this, and da da da. Like, it's always relatable. So if you find that you easily relate to people in that way, then this would be a direct connection. So there's also the idea of being admired, like, for something that there's no control over. So if you find that you are a magnet to people, just based on, like, without effort, it's this energy. There's something very, like, either magnetic in the sense that people want to talk, or magnetic in the sense that people might just look at you, or be pulled to look at you. And you don't have to be wearing anything crazy or anything like that. So that, those are connections you could be making. Just keep making connections where you can with that. And you know, the more I'm talking about this whole thing, it actually feels like the connection would be Russia instead of Atlantis or Lemuria. It just feels like it feels like you're such a, in your mind, it's almost like there's, hold on. it's really interesting. This is like a rare feeling coming through. I don't usually get something like this, so I'm just, Okay, so bear with me. This feels, let's say, I don't know what you believe in, but let's say there's, like, the legendary characters from folklore. You know, gods and goddesses and fairies and dragons, like those legendary characters, right? So, what we've gotten, because I'm also a past life regressionist, I do regressions, and we have gotten, and this is not to push your belief system in any way or make you uncomfortable, but or you might find it very interesting. So what we've gotten are people who have lived lives as non-human energies, like fairies, right? Like that kind of thing. And it's just a different energy is all. And so what this feels like is it's almost like there's a non-human aspect somewhere, like we'll say that you are of a non-human energy, right? Like let's just say you've lived a life as a Russian folk tale character from legends, okay? Like one of those legendary characters, we'll just say. And then that legendary character decided, I'm going to try being human. That's what this feels like, is like what we're looking at, this aspect of you is a human, like a human beginning of a soul that was once something that was kind of magical, maybe non-human kind of thing, like a magical idea or energy that's like, I'm going to try being a human. And then here we are. So that's just me trying to relay to you, and you know, please excuse me if that is just too random for you, but I'm trying to relay to you the feeling of the energy of this aspect of you. And that can also explain if you do like magic and you are pulled to folklore and legendary things and witchcraft and, you know, like just interesting, like the Druids or, you know, ancient Greece or ancient, you know, like those kinds of like mysterious, magical times that we only read about kind of thing. It feels like there's something in here about that. And so if you vibe with that, this would align with that. Now, here's the thing. What you resonate here, whatever I say, you have to resonate with it. But if you don't resonate, just tuck it in the back of your mind for later. Because a lot of times, things will come up weeks, months, even a year after these readings for people, because it acts kind of like, it kind of pries open some doors for a lot of people that they just needed to kind of hear something and see what happens kind of thing, kind of like a domino effect. So just, again, what you resonate with, great. What you don't, just tuck in the back of your mind, no problem, and see what happens, okay? Alright, so just keep making connections where you can with everything we've been going over from that card alone, and we're going to go to the next card. So this card is what you did with the majority of your time. Oh, and I was getting into the idea that this does feel like Russia. So as I've been talking, the more I've been talking, it feels like we're looking at a woman who is by a window in a building. The building is, it's kind of, it's like deteriorated, and she's at the top window. It's the image that them being fed. And looking out the window, and it feels like she is the person running this building, and it honestly feels like an orphanage in Russia. And like, I know like what St. Petersburg looks like, but this isn't that. It feels more like what you would consider the feeling of like Moscow, even though it might not be that. It might be like a city or a place around Moscow, and Moscow is just the closest thing I know. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I would be getting that kind of information. But just that alone, if you have any connection or you ever feel pulled to visit or vacation or whatever to Russia, probably, like, I mean, you could specifically think, you know, Moscow, or if you have emotional triggers when you think of it, or pull up photos on Google and look at Moscow and see if you have any emotional triggers, as in like feeling deeply, if it feels familiar, if it creates any kind of emotional reaction in you, because it can also cause, it doesn't mean it's all comfortable and joyful and, oh, it's home. For some people it is, but it can also cause like anxiety to see places if they didn't have a great life there, kind of thing too. So you're just looking for an emotional reactive trigger feeling to it. But it does feel like we're falling into Russia now that we talked about the magical realism aspect, because you also dwell in your mind as much as you dwell in the real world. You dwell in your mind too, and it feels like that would be because of, it feels like what they're doing is coloring the world kind of gray. And this also feels like we're looking at kind of like the turn of the century kind of thing. I do want to, like, I want to say like we're bridging late 18 to 1900 kind of thing. But it's hard to say because I don't know how advanced they were versus the rest of the world at this time. I'm just seeing a lot of gray, and it doesn't feel modern. So anyway, any connections you can make with that. We're going to move to the next card. This is the labor card, and a lot of times this is like physical constructive, like construction labor and stuff like that, but this one is more like you don't stop working because you can't stop working, because it really feels like we're looking at an orphanage and there's no sleep for someone running an orphanage. And the thing I can say is that it feels like you are a solid figure for the children. I wouldn't exactly say that you are like a sugar plum fairy. Like, it's not like sweet. It's like there's a grittiness to this, but it's like you actually care about them. So they're deep. So you have a big heart and you care about them, but it's also a tough life. You are lacking in sleep. The food is it's just like, it's a hard life. It's almost like you're like, well, thank God we have a roof over our heads and that we get to eat every day, and thank God for that. And it's like you do have good relationships with the kids, but it's also a lot of disciplining. And it feels like there might be one other person helping you there, but it's not, it's almost like someone else that you kind of have to take care of too. Like, they really don't take initiative, and you have to like keep an eye on them to make sure they're staying on task. So it's just more work for you. So connections you can make to this, for example, can start with the orphanage. So it's how you feel about children, how you feel about orphans, how you feel about abandonment, parental abandonment, parenthood, having children. So in your current life, if you can even be someone that's like, I'm not having any kids, I don't want any kids, because the idea of kids might either at one time have been or still is like overwhelming, or you really love the idea of freedom in this life, right? So that could be one way to take it. Another would be, I'm going to have kids in this life and I'm going to make sure that I don't leave them, and I'm going to make sure they have the best, the best that I can give them, and I'm going to really just like prioritize them, and you know what I mean? So that's how it can be going different ways with this theme of being surrounded by children but also taking care of them. But this does show very like there's a lot of compassion, but there's also a lot of like pragmatism because you have to make sure like it's like there's not a lot, and you have to make sure everyone gets something. There's not a lot to go around, so to speak. So again, it's a hard life. So in your current life, you could have come back and chosen to be born to a family that has money, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. Or you could have come back into this life and been raised with like in hardship because you handled it before, just like you were able to totally handle it, and your soul knows, oh, I can handle it, it's fine, no big deal, and chose a family where the hardship would be there, but you'd be able to get through it. So this can also indicate someone like if you had siblings or whatever, you would have been the person who was probably, again, either the most responsible or the one that was like in your head daydreaming, and you're like, I'm going to take this life and I'm going to just enjoy myself, and I'm going to live in my imagination and be artistic and creative and not worry about people because I took care of so many last time. Like, do you see the theme kind of coming up here? So it's really about like, how does that theme play into your life? The theme of children, of parent, like your childhood, your parents, like how it all played out. Because you could have also chosen to come back and experience abandonment or neglect like these kids kind of thing. But on the other hand, it could be the opposite. So just it's an interesting theme. So just play with that. Hopefully you have a pen and paper while you're doing this. Let's see what else came through. The hard worker, right? So in your current life, if you find that you are a workaholic, you just are nonstop. Your mind is always, on your job, your career. It doesn't necessarily mean even advancing forward, like climbing the ladder kind of thing, but just like you might be someone that likes to have tabs on everything. And here's the thing, if you do consider yourself a very hard worker, workaholic, need to like multitask and make sure like everything, where everything is at all times kind of thing. If that's you, this would be a message for you to relax and take time where it's quiet and take time to learn a discipline in quieting your mind. And that's if it's that. Otherwise, you would be someone who came back and your soul was exhausted from working here. Then your current life, you're already like that. In your current life, you're already like, I need a timeout, I need a break, a peace out, I'm gonna go take a drive, like that kind of thing. Because you learned, okay, I lived and I like burned myself out from all the work. My next life, yeah, I'm just gonna relax. You see, so there's a theme of hard work and taking time for yourself. Just make sure that you do take time for yourself. Make sure that you are at least now starting to prioritize yourself and your self-care. And I know if you have kids, then that's hard. Like, I get it, but that's also good for them. When you feel fulfilled and you're all fueled up, then you can love harder and love more versus when you're running on fumes and you're exhausted. So anyway, keep making connections where you can with this card. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Okay, just one more thing is the girl that you're helping who can't, like, she's there to help you, but you end up like really kind of helping her do her job, so to speak. This would indicate also if you are someone that either one has trouble working in groups and you prefer to work alone because you know that I can get it done. You're not going to do it right. I'm going to get it done. If you have that kind of attitude, so to speak, it would come from here. It would also indicate if you are someone who, what is it? Well, how am I trying to say this? If you're someone, it's like, I can do it. I can get it. I'll get it right. No one's... Right, okay. So it's about not asking for help. So this would be if you're someone that doesn't like to ask for help, this would be a message for you to make sure that you just try. Just try to be open to asking for help and start with people that you know you can rely on. And it's not a burden to the people that love you because they want to help you, because they love you. So it's like, give them an opportunity. So if this does speak to you, it would be a message of making sure that you just try to give people the opportunity to step up and meet the requirements that you set out, if that makes sense. So there's that. Just keep making connections where you can when it comes to this card. And we're going to go ahead and move to the first important day. All right. So here we have the trauma card. Sorry, the glare. There we go. The trauma card. And this is usually when we are witnessing a trauma, experiencing a trauma, thinking of a trauma that happened in the past. I'm just going to see what comes through with the trauma card, but the relationship that comes with the trauma card, this is the soul group card. And it feels like it has to do with the group of kids you are dealing with. And this also now just opened up the idea of the time period because it feels like there's a revolution going on. Okay, so it feels like there's something like a takeover. So in Russia, there was the changeover that happened. I'm not awesome with all the history and dates and stuff. So go ahead and Google that revolution or when things like changed over and people started fighting, like factions started taking, like people start, like, it just feels like there's chaos beginning that's going to lead to more chaos, but it feels like you're getting it at the beginning. Look up that and see when that time period is, because that's going to be when it is. because we might be in the 1800s more, or just, you'll want to look at that. Yeah, like, yeah. Okay, the feelings involved with this is the distant and removed card, and this actually has to do with the politics that we're talking about here. So this is a political revolution beginning, and it feels like you don't care. You're like, I have enough on my plate. I have my tasks and my jobs and my kids. Like, I have all this I have to think about. I don't care who's in power as long as there's still a roof over our heads and food on the table and everyone's safe. Like, that's all you care about. So you're removed from politics because of it. And the trauma, I feel like it affects your area. It feels like this is where it's like, it's almost like something goes to shambles. Something like, almost like, it's almost like a bomb. Now, I don't know if they had bombs back then, like little like there's explosions happening, and it feels like it's almost like where like something like if there's a chandelier in your building, it falls. It's like almost like an earthquake. I don't know if they get earthquakes in Russia, but I don't think this is actually like a earthquake. It feels like an earthquake because there's shaking, because it feels like there's explosions. So it feels like this feels like the night or the time period of a riot. It feels like a riot goes on. And there's injuries. So the distant and removed card, again, it's almost like, I don't want any part of this. So in your current life, how do you feel about politics? You know? Like, are you like, look, as long as I'm not bothered, and as long as, you know, the people I love and myself are like okay and safe and happy, I'm good? Or do you find in this life is opposite to this, where you're like, I'm going to protest in the streets and I'm going to be super active and, you know what I mean? Like, because you weren't here. So sometimes souls come back wanting to experience, you know, different experiences like that. So, but the politics theme comes up, but it's also more about the theme of like where you place your like values kind of thing, like valuing, like it's the idea of like valuing your own, this is like your own world versus what's best for everyone versus what's best for your group right here. And there's no, it's not good or bad or right or wrong or anything. It's just a preference, you know? So it's like, what is your preference? Are you someone that's like, as long as my family is safe, I'm good. I don't care. Or are you like, no guys, let's do this. We'll sacrifice for the whole, for the community. It's going to be better for mankind if we do that. You know what I mean? So it's coming up. That theme is coming up, and it could be coming up, honestly, because you might be going through a transition in your own mind where you are starting to discover things about yourself that you thought it was a certain way because you've been like that your whole life. And then recently you might be rediscovering like, oh wait, that's weird. I actually feel this way about this subject now. Because I used to feel different about this subject, you know, a decade ago. And now I think I've changed. I think I changed my mind, right? So if you are feeling that way, like you're going through a transition, things are coming up where you're finding that you are changing in your heart or mind or whatever it might be, go with the flow. Like, go with what's comfortable. And this would be a message, if you resonate with that, it would be a message for you to not stay the same just because people expect that of you, and it would keep them comfortable. So don't just stay in the box you've always stayed in the role you've always played, if you feel like spreading your wings and doing things different, just because it might cause disharmony for others, or it might make others uncomfortable, or it might cause a little bit of change, because that could be scary, and that holds a lot of people back when they want to change within themselves, but it will mean change outside of themselves, and it can rock the boat for a lot of people. But you have to be true to you. So just make sure you're doing that and you're being true to you. So I want to say there's more to this. Because I know Julia mentioned that you wanted to know if you were connected to her. And when I was laying out these cards, I felt like there was something about it where one had more of a maternal energy to the other, and it felt like, and we're going through this, and it's like you have this maternal energy, and I feel like very much like she was one of your wards or one of the children that you took care of, that you grew very fond of and were a mother to. And honestly, it could be the girl that was here that you came to help, or that came to work, but you kept having to fix her tasks because for whatever reason, quite frankly, she does feel this feels like that relationship. So just see if it resonates with you. But if it does feel like that would be her, and it feels like there's something about her where it's almost like an injury made her off in her head, so that this girl wouldn't be able to hold steps of a task, like fill the bucket with water, take the bucket with water to the window, take a rag, dip it in the water, wipe the window, take another rag, dry the window. You see how there's like all these steps? It's almost like this girl, it feels like there's something about in her youth, like that she was injured, that caused something like a brain injury where she has trouble with tasks. So it's almost like she ends up being just another ward or another like orphan, so to speak. But it feels like there's a bond between these two. And here's the thing, you do have the maternal thing, but this girl is also not a child, but she's almost childish. And there's a little bit of, it's like how it's like a loving tension. Loving tension, not bad at all. It's more like you might like fling a phrase at her, like, I'll get it, you dummy. Like that, but it's done like affectionately, like, oh, never mind, I'll get it, silly girl, like that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, so that's the thing I'm getting here when it comes to you and Julia's relationship. Just sit with that and see how you feel about that, because it felt like that's the connection now that we're focusing on it. But I felt like that's what we were laying the cards for too, was to get the life where you guys knew each other. But it also feels like this is not the only other life you guys knew each other. And it feels like there's an underlying energy of amusement between you two. Amusement on a soul level, kind of like when you guys were souls before you incarnated on planet, or you're up there in heaven or wherever, and you guys are like, okay, let's do this life together. And you guys are like up before you come down. It's like you guys are, there's like jokey. It's like it feels like amusing and jokey, so that when you guys meet each other, it's almost like you're like, okay, you go down first and you're gonna, you're gonna like run this orphan, and I'm gonna come in and I'll be a lot younger than you. But I'm also going to like have a head injury. So have fun with that. It's almost like a joke. Like it's very lovely. But that's what this energy feels like. So there's that for you guys, and that might be interesting to talk about if that feels, if that resonates with you. I kind of really like this. I like the energy. Yeah, because it's also here, it's like these two don't, I keep saying these two. What I mean is you, the aspect, the woman, and the aspect of the girl, Julia's aspect here. It feels like, you don't admit loving each other. Like you would never say like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Oh, you're my family. I consider you family. Like you're not gonna, that's not the kind of relationship this is. But the fondness is like shown in a very like dry, humory kind of way. Like very dry, like it's known, the love that is there, but it's like gonna be pulling teeth to actually say the words, or like be actually physically affectionate kind of thing. Anyway, keep making connections where you can with this whole thing here. But it does feel like the trauma is the knowing that the revolts are beginning, stuff's going down, it's chaotic, there's earthquakey, explosion-y stuff, you don't know if you're safe. So it's a traumatic feel. But it doesn't feel like anybody is injured, just mentally exhausted and worried. which could indicate in your current life if you worry without reason, or if you worry quickly about things. If your first default is to worry, that would be this. If not, that's fine, but that's the kind of thing that would come through. Yeah, so anyway. Alright, next important day. So here we have the Enlightenment card. Oop, there we go. The Enlightenment card, and I love this card. It usually means like a leveling up of the soul because of some moment. It could be like an aha moment or something like that. And then the relationship here is the Spouse card. And then this here is the Held Back card. Okay, so what this feels like is a day of compromise, or a time of compromise, and also of understanding your role and your purpose and your place in this life. It feels like there is a suitor that you admire, and there's mutual admiration, and it just simply feels like this person gives you an ultimatum where they're like, come away with me, you can be with me, I will pay for everything, you'll be fine, but you have to leave the orphanage, you have to leave the kids, you have to leave your job, and we're moving. Because there's something about him wanting to move out of the town or city or even the country because of the revolution stuff, political stuff happening. He wants to get out. And on this day, you really realize, like, your place and your role and your purpose is to live it out with the kids and to be with those kids. And it's like, this is a day of enlightenment where you understand, really feel like you understand, like, viscerally what it is to live for other people. Even though you already do that, this is a day where you realize, okay, so sometimes happiness needs to be compromised, and I know my place here, and I'm making the right choice. And it's like listening to your intuition and your gut, and like knowing you have to give up a potentially very comfortable future and dwell in a less comfortable reality, but you feel that is the place, like you feel like that's the right decision. So it's a compromise. You feel like it is like I have to give up this dream, because it's my place is here. And the thing is about this is, to anyone else, it would look like you're crazy, and it would sound like either you're a martyr or you don't know what you're doing. Like, what a horrible decision. Are you kidding me? But the feeling you have from your intuition and your knowingness is so profound and powerful. You've never felt so right in making a decision like that. And I feel like this is really coming through as a message for you to make sure that you do not disregard your intuition in your current life, who you are today. Don't disregard your intuition. Don't let external stimuli or other people, don't allow others to pressure you into choosing something different that you feel is good and right for you in your gut, just because they're dangling something that looks like a fantasy, if that makes sense. Like, it's not that like, oh, it's not greener on the other side, the grass isn't greener. It's not that. It's more like, if you feel right about something and other people have an idea of what is right for you, just because on paper it looks good, or, you know, in a photo it looks good, or whatever, you know, it looks good, if it doesn't feel right to you, you have got to stand by your choice and by your intuition no matter what. You know, like, it's about feeling over image. And a lot of us, Americans especially, and if you're not American, kudos, but it's like we're so wrapped up in what we look like to others. I think it's a human thing overall, but it's like, it's the kind of thing where it's got to stop. Like, it always has to come down to what you feel. It's about your feelings. Trust your intuition, trust your gut always. And then here's the kicker. If you stand by a decision that you make based on your intuition and how it makes you feel like this is right, I feel like this is right, and then something happens after that that might be like, oh, did I make the right decision? It might like feel uncomfortable or icky or whatever. It might like, that means that you were supposed to go through the ickiness from your decision because you signed up for that lesson that came from that decision, and the lesson is gold. Lessons are golden. So it's almost like I feel like this might be coming up to just remind you that when you're in any kind of hardship, whether it's just an argument with someone you love, or maybe you didn't get a promotion, or something didn't go your way, or whatever it is, remember, when you're in the hardship, remind yourself, oh, that's right, I signed up for this. This is a lesson. This is that lesson I signed up for. Okay, it's uncomfortable and it kind of sucks, but you know what? I'm learning, and that's what I'm here for. So your intuition, that's how your intuition never steers you wrong. Because it always, if you follow it, it'll always steer you to exactly what you need. Whether it's something like that feels like abundance or something that feels like a lesson / hardship, right? So that's how you can never go wrong. So, in this life, in this current life, if it could be also with the spouse card that you, in this life, chose to have a partner and to move forward with a partner and to choose you and choose your partner over others. It's this idea of compromise in this current life. Compromise is always like good, but you have to make sure that you are prioritizing yourself and you are filling your own love bucket, self-love, self-care. That's what this life is about. Self-love, self-care, and understanding that that is not selfish. It's not selfish. You came into this life to live your life, to go on a journey, and it includes other people, and we're all connected, but this is your life, so make sure that you are prioritizing you, and if you came in this life and you find that you are able to prioritize you, kudos, good, because in this life, you prioritized others. Even though in a sense you did prioritize yourself by, sticking with your gut and saying, no, I know better, which is great. So this also indicates a very strong spirit. So if you ever feel like there's a weakness in you, just know that this aspect of you is a very strong soul. And you can tap into that strength anytime, okay? And this held back card with the relationship aspect could also indicate in your current life, if you are having hardships in your relationship, either now or you find that there is a pattern of hardship in your relationship, and if you find that there is a hardship in your relationship, either now or in the past, it could very likely be because that person or those people that you have been with in your life don't allow you freedom in the way that you need it. Freedom to make choices or to be your own person, whatever it might be. And if you find that you are either unhappy in a relationship that you're in now, or if you're single and you're looking for a relationship, the ideal person is going to be someone who knows how to support you, but also allow freedom. And even more than that, it's not even allowing freedom, it's understanding that they are not someone that they don't get to allow anything because you're already your own person. So it's not even about, because why would they be allowing you to have freedom? Because they don't own you. You know what I mean? It's like that concept is overall is the freedom to be your own person. That would be the ideal person for you. That they would have that characteristic in recognizing your independence and your strength. So there's that. Keep making connections where you can with this, but this is really a day when you really feel your own power and you feel your own independence and your own knowing. You realize again, it's reinforcing the whole I'm going to do this myself. I don't need another person, that kind of thing, which would be a connection in your life. Either one, there might be someone who does take care of you and you allowed it in this life because you work so hard by yourself, solo, that in your current life, you're allowing yourself to be taken care of, and it could be by the same soul of this man. But on the other hand, you could be quite stubborn and be like, I don't need your help, I can do this, I don't need help, like that kind of thing. So it's just that theme that you just want to see what you resonate with when it comes to that. So keep making connections where you can with this, and we're gonna go over to the death card, and it feels, this is the murder card, and it's not always like intentional murder, like someone else killing you. It can also be like intentional self-murder, which, you know, suicide or whatever, which we get a lot with drinking for some reason. So I'm just gonna see, because alcohol did pop in. I'm just seeing what's going on. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what it feels like is it feels like the region that you're in, it's almost like the street. Not just the street, but like maybe the neighborhood. Here you go. Okay, thank you. The neighborhood that you live in feels like it is taken over and it becomes very hostile territory. And it feels like there's a lot of looting and stealing or vagabonding or something having to do with all the political upheaval. There's something that is going on where there's like political upheaval and there's a lot of chaos, and it feels like you are caught up in the crossfire, almost like they want to, it's like the group, like it's almost like a group wants to take over the building, how they used to take over buildings for like war, and the soldiers would be stationed in buildings, like how they had it like in Gone with the Wind, you know, like where the soldiers would just take over the house and whatever. It feels like they did that here, so go ahead if you want to and Google and see if that was actually done back then, because that's what it feels like is happening, and it feels like they end up killing you as kind of like a way to take the house because you wouldn't let them. It's almost like you fought them and they just like killed you. So the only connection that I could feel would come from this would be, one, if you despise war, if you're not into the military thing, if you're someone that you're like, oh, you're a soldier, okay, yeah, thanks for like your help with the country and everything, but it could be that kind of thing, like your feelings towards war, your feelings towards soldiers, your feelings towards terrorist groups. If that's a trigger for you, like a big trigger for you, when you read about that, when you hear about that, and then also the idea of, hold on, there's something, it could be even like if you have an issue with men, because this is just a bunch of like men that just killed you, men, but also like being attacked. So like if you're paranoid, like when you walk to your car, or if you're always looking over your shoulder, if you ever get these weird feelings like for no reason when you're alone, like you'll be attacked, that would be a connection, but maybe none of that, you know what I mean? So that's the only connection I can imagine would, that I could feel would, if anything, come from this, but it doesn't necessarily mean you would. So just keep that in mind, and this can also one other thing would be the idea of defending your territory and being particular about your property. So if you're someone that is possessive of your property, and property as in, it could be your own personal items that you don't like sharing, or you're very possessive over them, you're very watchful over them, and even like people you love, like you'd be like, don't leave your purse there, don't leave your handbag there, what are you doing, don't leave your, you know, like that kind of thing. Or your property in the sense of like if you own a house, if you own your land or whatever, if you put security, you're weird about security, you need security systems up, you might even be someone that likes having big dogs that are known to be watchdogs, that kind of thing. That's the kind of connection too. So just keep that in mind, and we're going to go ahead and move to the lesson card, and keep making connections where you can. So the lesson card here, this is the strategy and the mind and the brain and the learning and the knowing. And it feels like this has to do with yourself and what you learn about yourself. So it starts off with this lesson here where it goes through and you have your aha moment where you learn so much about your inner strength, about your purpose in life, your role in life, your determinism, your just like you find like, it's like you've always known who you were, but then you come down to this day, you know, where you have to say no and choose the orphan, choose your people, the kids over, you know, a comfortable future, so to speak. This day is huge, and it's directly related. Basically, it's a coming to know yourself more than ever, a settling into yourself on a soul level that you've never felt in this entire life. And it could be coming up because that might be something in your current life that you're waiting for. Or it could be that you're right on the cusp of it right now and you might feel that. And if that resonates with you, that's a beautiful thing. And that would mean that what we're discussing here, it would mean that it's your job to make sure that you are trusting yourself more and or fully, that you are listening to your intuition, that you are making decisions based on what feels good and right to you, and you're not being peer pressured, that you trust that you know yourself and trust that you are like stepping into the highest version of yourself as you move forward. You just have to keep believing in yourself and trusting yourself and trusting your judgment of people and environments and everything. Like that. So keep making connections where you can. And this is also interesting too, with this lesson, actually, the whole like mind brain learning. This is more like of a left brain card, in the sense of like analytical, brain mind kind of thing. And it's interesting because we started this off with with someone who lives in their headspace and lives in their imagination land and dwells in kind of like their daydreams. And then here we are getting the brain card. So we're seeing someone actually who's very balanced. This woman is very balanced because her life is also hard and like, again, gray environment, like very just like realism, and yet knows how to find joy and peace of mind in her own mind and body by dwelling in a happier daydream place. And that's not a bad thing. So this is also a card of balance. So if you are seeking balance by any chance, just know you already have it. And the trick is to trust that you are balanced. You just have to pay attention now to your intuition that's going to tell you where to focus in your life in order to show you where you actually do have balance. You just need to maybe refocus a few things in order to feel it. So anyway, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections. And thanks for letting me read you.